My name is Myra Whitmore. I'm 34 years old, a cardiology resident, and the mother of 3-year-old twins Lily and Lucas. 2 months ago, I thought I was going to die. I was lying on a hospital gurney, fluorescent lights burning my eyes, pain spreading through my abdomen like fire, blood loss, internal injuries, doctors moving fast, voices sharp and urgent, and all I could think about wasn't myself. It was my children. Lily and Lucas were at home with the babysitter. She was scheduled to leave in less than an hour. If I went into surgery and the doctors were already preparing me for it, my twins would be alone. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone. There was only one number I could call. My parents. I hadn't relied on them emotionally in years, but this wasn't about comfort. This was survival. I dialed with trembling fingers, my breath shallow and uneven. They picked up on the fourth ring. "We're about to head out," my father said, already irritated. "What's wrong?" "Dad," I whispered, my voice barely holding together. "I've been in an accident. I'm at the hospital. They think I'm bleeding internally. I need surgery." Silence. "I need you and Mom to come watch Lily and Lucas," I continued quickly. "Just for a few hours, please." More silence. Then I heard muffled voices. My mother, my sister. Laughter in the background. The line went dead. A second later, my phone buzzed. Family group chat. The message was from my mother. "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets tonight with your sister. Figure it out yourself." I stared at the screen, convinced I had misread it. Another message came in, this time from my father. "You're a doctor. You're used to hospitals. Don't make this dramatic." Then one more notification. A laughing emoji. From my sister. That was it. No concern. No fear. No urgency. Just a concert. And laughter. Something inside me broke open in that moment. Quietly. Completely. A doctor I worked with, Marcus, was standing beside the gurney. He had seen my face change. He didn't need to ask what happened. I borrowed his phone, searched for an emergency nanny service, explained the situation in a calm voice that didn't match the chaos inside me, and paid triple the rate without hesitation. My children would be safe. I closed my eyes as they wheeled me into surgery, not knowing if I'd wake up again, but knowing one thing with absolute clarity. If I survived this, nothing would ever be the same. Because the people I had carried for years had just abandoned me when I needed them most. And that realization was more painful than the surgery itself. But here's what my parents didn't know that night. For the past 8 years, I had been silently paying for their entire lifestyle. And 2 weeks after my surgery, when the money suddenly stopped, someone showed up at my door who would expose everything. To understand why that message in the ambulance shattered me the way it did, you need to understand how love worked in my family. Love wasn't free, it was ranked. Growing up, I learned early that affection in our house came with conditions and a scoreboard. At the top of it was my older sister, Vanessa. She was 3 years older, effortlessly charming, and blessed with the kind of beauty that made people lean in when she spoke. Whenever she entered a room, my parents seemed to straighten, like flowers turning toward sunlight. Vanessa didn't have to try. She was simply chosen. When she announced she wanted to study fashion design, my mother cried tears of pride. My father told relatives she was a visionary. They talked about her dreams like they were already achievements. When it was my turn, years later, I told them I wanted to become a doctor. My father nodded once. "That's practical," he said. No tears. No excitement. No celebration. Just practical. So I became exactly that. I worked harder, studied longer, slept less. I buried myself in textbooks and competition and ambition because effort was the only currency I had. I clawed my way into one of the top medical schools in the country. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, then residency, long nights, brutal shifts, and constant pressure. I told myself their lack of enthusiasm didn't matter. I was doing this for me, but moments have a way of revealing the truth The day one graduated from medical school should have been unforgettable. It was just not for the reasons I hoped. My parents arrived 2 hours late. No flowers. No hugs. My mother barely met my eyes as she apologized. Vanessa had an emergency meeting with a potential investor, she said. We had to drop her off first. They stayed long enough to take a quick photo in the parking lot. Then they rushed off because Vanessa needed emotional support. I stood there in my graduation gown, holding my diploma, watching their car disappear. 3 years earlier, when Vanessa hosted her first fashion show, the entire family flew to New York. 5-star hotel, front row seats, 17 Facebook posts from my father, each one declaring how proud he was of his talented daughter. I got a parking lot photo and a lukewarm, "Congrats, honey." I explained it away the way I always did. Fashion is risky. Medicine is stable. She needs them more. I can handle myself. What I didn't know back then was that their favoritism wasn't just emotional, it was financial. And I was the one quietly paying for it. It started 8 years ago, right after I finished medical school. My father called one evening, his voice heavy with embarrassment. "We're in a bit of trouble this month," he said. "Mortgage is due. Could you help us out?" Just this once. I transferred the money that night. Just this once became every month. Mortgage payments, health insurance premiums, car repairs, emergency expenses. I never said no, not even when I was pregnant with twins and their father. Walked out during my 5th month. Not even when I was studying for board exams while caring for newborns alone. The money kept flowing, and I kept believing that one day it would be enough. But one spreadsheet created, almost by accident would, force me to face a number so shocking it changed how I saw my entire family. And when the accident happened, that number suddenly mattered more than ever. I don't remember exactly why I started tracking the money. At first, it wasn't intentional. I think it began as a way to stay organized. One of those habits you pick up in medicine, dates, amounts, categories. Everything documented. Everything precise. A single spreadsheet. Mortgage assistance. Health insurance. Emergency repairs. Unexpected short months. What I didn't expect was what the numbers would eventually show me. By the time I was pregnant with Lily and Lucas, the payments had become routine. Every month, without discussion, money left my account and landed in theirs. I barely even looked at the confirmation emails anymore. Then their father left. He packed a bag one evening while I was 6 months pregnant and said he wasn't ready for this life. I didn't cry in front of him. I waited until the door closed. That night, I had a bleeding episode that sent me to the hospital. Lying there, terrified for my unborn children, I called my parents. I needed my mother. I needed reassurance. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't alone. My mother sighed. "We wish we could come," she said, "but Vanessa just finished her Milan show. She's emotionally exhausted. She really needs us right now." They didn't come. Not for the birth. Not for the first month. Not for the sleepless nights. When I was nursing 2 newborns while studying for board exams. But the payments? Those never stopped. $2,400 on the 1st of every month. $800 on the 5th, 10th. Extras whenever they asked. One night, exhausted and overwhelmed, I opened the spreadsheet and scrolled. And scrolled. And scrolled. Years of my life stared back at me in neat rows and columns. 8 years. Over $300,000. I remember sitting there in silence. The twins asleep beside me, my laptop glowing in the dark. I didn't feel angry yet, just stunned. I told myself it didn't matter. They were my parents. Family helps family. I never asked for gratitude. I never expected applause, but I also never expected to be called a burden. That reckoning came on a Tuesday evening. I had just finished a 16-hour shift. My eyes burned, my body ached, but I was alert. The light turned green. I entered the intersection. I never saw the truck. It ran the red light at full speed. The impact was violent. Metal crushed. Glass shattered. The world spun sideways before everything went dark. When I woke up, pain ripped through my abdomen like fire. I was in an ambulance. Oxygen mask. Sirens screaming. A familiar face hovered above me. Marcus, an IU physician I'd worked with for years. "You were hit hard," he said. "We're worried about internal bleeding." Surgery. The word echoed in my head as panic rose, not for myself, but for Lily and Lucas. 45 minutes. That's how long. I had to find someone to care for my children before the babysitter left. That's when I made the call, and that's when my family made their choice. As the ambulance sped toward the hospital, my phone buzzed with those messages, the ones I would never forget. In that moment, staring at the screen, blood on my hands and fear in my chest, the spreadsheet finally stopped being just numbers. It became evidence. Because while I lay in surgery fighting to stay alive, I made the quietest but most powerful decision of my life. And when I woke up, I cut them off completely. The surgery lasted 4 hours. When I woke up, my body felt like it had been split open, which, in a way, it had. A ruptured spleen. Severe internal bleeding. The surgeon told me later that if the ambulance had arrived even a few minutes later, I wouldn't have made it. I spent 5 days in the hospital. 5 days of 4 drips, morphine fog, and nurses waking me every few hours to check my vitals. 5 days of staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet beeping of machines. I'm 5 days without a single call. No message from my mother. No check-in from my father. No visit from my sister. Nothing. The only updates that I received came from the emergency nanny service. Photos of Lily and Lucas eating breakfast, playing with blocks, sleeping peacefully. Strangers had stepped up without hesitation. My own family hadn't. On the 3rd day, once the pain was manageable and my mind clear, I asked the nurse to bring me my laptop. "Are you sure?" she asked gently. "You should be resting." "I need to take care of something," I replied. My hands were steady as I logged into my banking app. There they were. 8 years of automatic transfers lined up like a quiet confession. $2,400 on the 1st. $800 on the 5th, 10th. Extras scattered in between. Regular. Predictable. Invisible. I clicked each one and canceled them. All of them. No dramatic music, no shaking hands, no tears, just relief. Then I blocked their numbers. My father, my mother, my sister. It felt like setting down a weight I'd been carrying for so long that I'd forgotten it was there. Later that afternoon, Marcus stopped by my room. He'd been checking in on me every day, bringing coffee and sitting with me in comfortable silence. "How are you feeling?" he asked. I looked up at him and, for the first time in years, answered honestly. "Better," I said, "for the first time in 8 years. I actually feel better." He didn't ask for details. He didn't need to. I knew the fallout was coming. My parents would notice the missing money soon enough. There would be confusion, then anger, then demands. But what I didn't expect was how fast it would happen. 2 weeks later, I was finally home. Still sore, still moving slowly, but alive. It was Saturday morning. Pancakes were on the stove, Lily and Lucas's favorite. The kitchen smelled like butter and maple syrup. Lucas was stacking toy blocks on the floor. Lily was knocking them over and laughing. For the first time in weeks, the house felt normal. Then there was a knock at the door. 3 sharp knocks. My heart jumped. I wasn't ready to see my parents. I didn't know if I ever would be. I wiped my hands on a towel and looked through the peephole. My breath caught. Standing on my doorstep was a tall man in his 70s, silver hair, sharp blue eyes, a posture that still carried authority, a face I hadn't seen in years. My grandfather, the man my parents had carefully kept away from me because my grandfather hadn't come to check on me. He came because someone finally told him the truth. And what he planned to do next would expose everything. In front of the entire family, I opened the door, and before I could say a word, my grandfather pulled me into a hug. It was firm, protective, enough to make my healing incision ache, but I didn't pull away. I hadn't realized how badly I needed that embrace until it happened. Myra, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Let me look at you. He stepped back, his sharp eyes scanning my face. Then, drifting to where my hand instinctively rested over my abdomen. I know everything, he said quietly. I swallowed. Grandpa, you don't need to explain, he interrupted gently. But I do need you to come somewhere with me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, cream-colored, heavy paper, formal. An invitation. His 70th birthday party. Next Saturday. The whole family will be there, he said, holding my gaze. And there are some things that need to be said. My stomach tightened. He followed me inside and sat at the kitchen table while Lily and Lucas immediately claimed his attention. They climbed onto his lap, proudly showing him their toys. He laughed, fully present, fully engaged, more than my parents had ever been. They looked just like you did, he said softly. Same stubborn chin. I made coffee and sat across from him. How did you find out about the accident? Aunt Eleanor called me the night it happened, he replied. She told me what your parents did. Or rather, didn't do. His jaw tightened. I've watched this pattern for years, he continued. The way they treat you versus your sister. I'm old, Mara, but I'm not blind. I stared down at my mug. Sometimes I thought I was imagining it. You weren't his. Voice carried authority, the kind that came from decades on the federal bench. Favoritism, exploitation. I've seen it all. Then he asked the question that made my heart race. Do you still have records of the money you've been sending them? I nodded slowly. Every payment. 8 years. Good, he said, leaning back. I want you to organize it. Dates, amounts, everything. Why? I asked. Because at my birthday party, he said calmly, the truth is going to come out. My hands started to shake. What if they hate me? He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. The ones who matter won't, he said, and the ones who do never deserved you. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. I printed every bank statement, every transfer confirmation, 8 years of quiet support laid out in black and white. The total was staggering when I saw it all together. Aunt Eleanor came over a few days before the party. She flipped through the folder, her expression darkening with every page. Do you realize what this is? She asked. This is more than most people earn in years. I nodded. I don't want to destroy the family. You're not, she said firmly. You're just stopping the lie. The night before the party, I received a text from a cousin I barely spoke to, and things are tense. Vanessa's been telling everyone you've been acting unstable since the accident. Just thought you should know. I stared at the message, my chest tight. They were already rewriting the story, preparing the room before the truth arrived. Because when I walked into my grandfather's birthday party, I didn't just bring my children. I brought proof, and my family was about to realize. They had underestimated the quiet one. My grandfather's house looked like something out of a magazine. White columns, a wide wraparound porch, manicured lawns, and a circular driveway packed with cars. The kind of place that whispered old money and authority. Lily and Lucas pressed their faces to the window as we pulled in, excited by the balloons and lights inside. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I wasn't nervous about seeing my family. I was nervous about staying silent. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Crystal glasses clinked. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Laughter floated through the room like nothing in the world had ever gone wrong. And then I saw them. My parents stood near the fireplace, perfectly composed. My father in his tailored suit, my mother smiling warmly at relatives. They looked comfortable. Vanessa noticed me first. She glided over in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Her smile was flawless, polite, empty. Oh, Myra, she said, air kissing my cheek. You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing serious, I hope? I met her eyes. Ruptured spleen. Internal bleeding. I almost died. Her smile faltered for half a second. That's not what Mom said, she replied smoothly. She told everyone it was just a minor crash. I shifted Lucas on my hip. Mom wasn't there. None of you were. Vanessa patted my arm like I was a child. Well, you look fine now. That's what matters. She walked away. 30 minutes later, the whispers started. I was pouring juice for the twins when I heard Vanessa's voice, loud enough to carry. I'm really worried about Myra, she said to a group of relatives. The accident really affected her. She's been acting unstable. My mother dabbed at her eyes. She cut us off completely. Won't answer calls or texts. We're so scared for her. She's always been sensitive, Vanessa added. The stress of being a single mom must have pushed her over the edge. I felt eyes turn toward me, pity, concern, judgment. They were doing it, rewriting the story before I could speak. Aunt Eleanor appeared at my side, furious. They've been laying groundwork all week. They know something's coming. Across the room, my grandfather watched silently, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He gave me a small nod. Stay calm. Then the room quieted. My grandfather stood. At 70, he still commanded attention, the way only decades of authority could. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. All eyes turned to him. Before we continue celebrating, he said evenly, "There are a few things I need to address." My heart pounded. Before he could continue, my father stepped forward. "Dad, wait," he said gently. "There's something the family should know." He turned to the room, every inch the concerned parent. "As many of you have heard, Myra has been going through a difficult time," he said, "since the accident. She's been confused, distant. She's cut us off completely." My mother stepped beside him. "We've only ever wanted what's best for her," she said tearfully. "But she's been spreading terrible lies, saying we abandoned her." Vanessa spoke from across the room. "She's even claiming we refused to help her during the accident. That's absolutely not true." The room was silent. Dozens of eyes landed on me. I felt Lily press her face into my neck, and for a brief moment, I almost stayed quiet. Then my grandfather spoke. "Richard," he said calmly, "sit down." My father froze, because my grandfather hadn't stood up to comfort anyone. He stood up to deliver facts, because what my grandfather said next would dismantle every lie, one document at a time. And when the numbers were revealed, the room would never be the same again. The room was so quiet, I could hear the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. My grandfather didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "For 8 years, he said evenly, my granddaughter has financially supported her parents." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My father stiffened. My mother's hand tightened around her handkerchief. "She paid their mortgage," Grandpa continued. "Their insurance. Their emergencies. Month after month. Year after year." Vanessa laughed lightly, trying to break the tension. "That's ridiculous. Why would she?" My grandfather held up a hand. "Facts," he said calmly, "do not care for interruptions." He turned toward me. "Myra." I stepped forward slowly. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. "This," I said, holding it up, "is every transfer I made over the last 8 years. Dates, amounts, bank confirmations." I handed it to my grandfather. He opened it, and then he began to read. Numbers filled the air. Specifics, precision, impossible to deny. Aunt Eleanor leaned forward. A cousin gasped softly. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My mother's face drained of color. "This total," my grandfather said finally, "comes to over $300,000. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd ever felt. My father opened his mouth. Closed it, opened it again. "We never asked," he started. "You asked," I said quietly. "And I gave every time." My mother rushed forward. "We're family," she cried. "You're supposed to help family." I nodded. "I did, until the night I almost died." "And you chose a concert?" Vanessa scoffed. "You're exaggerating." I looked at her. "I was bleeding internally," I said. "I begged you for help." You sent a laughing emoji. That one sentence shattered what little defense remained. My grandfather closed the folder. What concerns me most, he said, is not the money. It's the lie. The years of pretending one child was a burden while benefiting from her silence. He turned to the room. This ends tonight. My parents didn't shout. They didn't argue. They just stood there, exposed. I picked up Lily and Lucas. We're leaving, I said. No one stopped me. Outside, the night air felt lighter, like I could finally breathe. In the weeks that followed, the fallout came quietly. Fewer calls, awkward messages from relatives. Vanessa stopped speaking to me altogether, and for the first time in my life, that was okay. I rebuilt my world without guilt, without automatic transfers, without shrinking myself to keep others comfortable. Marcus stayed close. My children laughed more. I slept better. I didn't lose a family that night. I gained my life back. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stop explaining your worth and let the truth speak for itself. If this story resonated with you, you're not alone, and you're not wrong for choosing yourself. Because boundaries don't destroy families, they reveal them.